Okay, I guess we'll go ahead and get started. I'm really happy this morning to have our friends Tom and Marilyn Gannon come to present some information about Bell Club, the bell choir and handbells. Tom and Marilyn are South Dakota natives, and they lived in the Washington, D.C. area and Virginia for most of their career life, their work life. And when they retired 15 years ago, They moved back to their roots, and they're in Sioux Falls. In fact, they're our neighbors in the reserve. And I have a few things to tell you about their history with bells, but I don't want to miss anything. I'm going to read it. Tom and Marilyn directed handbell choirs at a large church in Virginia for 20 years. Tom also directed a bell choir at a private school in Virginia. Both of them have enjoyed directing, ringing, and attending numerous bell seminars and festivals, and teaching classes in bells. Tom served as a Virginia State Vice President for the American League of English Bell Ringers. So they come to us well qualified to tell us a bit about bells today. So let's welcome Tom and Marilyn.
Thank you. Is it working? You think so? Okay, great. Well, just want to mention a little bit more. We did have, at one time in our church, we had 5 handbell choirs. And so if you stop and think about whoa, there we go. All right. So you think that many months have 4 Sundays. So there were 4 choirs, one had each of those 4 Sundays, and then there was another choir that had all of the 5th Sundays. So that meant that we really didn't get a Sunday off, but that was quite fun. So what we wanted to do a little bit with you today, because you in this church have had a wonderful handbell choir and many choirs here, and have been a leader in this area. And we knew Pat for a few years before we got out here, and then when we did come, Marilyn and I played with the Heartland for a few years, and then I wasn't doing so good anymore, so I needed to stop that, and Marilyn has continued until just this past year. But when I was in the East, we did and was that area, one of the area officers, meant that I got to help with many of the festivals and would do teaching, as well as have the opportunity to learn from all of the other learned people throughout a 5-state area. And it was something that I very much enjoyed. It had to, thinking about what was the history of handbells, one of the first things that usually comes up is, how did it get started? And if you think about it, the churches in Europe usually had a big bell tower with these bells in the tower. And they would do what they called change ringing, which is a mathematical system of when each bell would ring. And so then they would do these rings, and they could last up to many, many hours, as long as that group did not make a mistake. But when they made a mistake, then they had to stop. So if they're not wanting to make a mistake, and thinking, we can't really practice and ring these bells really loud out in the community, how are we going to practice? So they developed a smaller bell that they could hold in their hand, and they would practice that mathematical changes. We don't know who, but someone said, oh, well, we've got this series of tones, and they started just messing around. And they created a tune, or they started playing, we can play tunes. So then that developed a need for bells. And in 1740, the Whitechapel Company in England started making handbells. For many years, they were known as the handbell makers of the world, basically. And then there's another company started making bells, Pettit Fridson and Schulmerich in Pennsylvania, and then Malmark in Pennsylvania. We have our personal set of bells, our Schulmerich. You have Schulmerich here. The Malmark company was founded by 2 people who worked for Schulmerich and thought they had a better idea. Schulmerich said, we don't think so, so they went down the road and started their own company. So you say, well, what might be different? what might be different about the bells. And I think that one of the things that bells have is overtones built into the bell. And the different companies had a little bit different feeling about how they would do the overtones, or how much of the fundamental as compared to the other overtones might be. And that kind of was some of the major things. And so, if you just were to, why don't you, can I have one go? If you play a bell, you say, well, that's a tone, but did you hear so much higher as soon as I muted only this? That's the overtones, and that's the things that's the main difference between the different companies. With the Schulmerich, this is the fundamental. This part is a fifth higher, and I can't really hear it on this bell, but if you have the real big one, you can. A much higher one even comes from up here. And so that's kind of the basic with that. And when bells started ringing, you said, well, how many do you need to make music? And so 2 octaves were frequently used. And when we started being involved in this many, many years ago, 3 octaves was what an awful lot of the groups had. And all of a sudden you start hearing about 5 octave bells, and you have 5 octave set. And then, now we got 7 octave sets, and Malmark even makes a 7.5 octave set. What does that mean financially? You know? And hazard a guess, what would you think a 5 octave set? Just the handbells, no paraphernalia like the tables, the gloves, all these other things. What might that cost?
How many bells is that?
And how many bells? That's 61 bells, 5 octaves. Hazard a guess, anyone?
20,000.
How much?
20,000.
Well, you're closer than I thought you might be. Right now it's about 36,000.
Wow.
And the 3 octave, the 2 octave set of bells is like about 10,000. The 7 octave set of bells, 85,000. The 7.5 octave set of bells, 100,000. So why is that so much? Those big bells cost a huge amount of money. So just, I thought that to me seems very interesting. So what are the characteristics of bells? How are they made? They're made from bronze, and that the bronze metal that's used for bells is 80% copper, 20% tin. So then they mold a bell, and then the bell gets tuned. And how the bell is tuned is by taking metal away. And so then that's how you get the different, the different overtones, is that metal is taken away at the lid, and also inside the bell up higher to get that overtone. So the bell, once that is tuned, do you think that it stays in tune then? Is that what you would expect? Yeah, and basically they will. But what do we do to bells? What do you do to bells to keep them looking the way your bells look right now? You know what they do? They polish. And when you polish, you take a little bit of metal off each time you polish. And when you take metal off, when you remove metal, do you know what that does to the tuning? That lowers the tuning. So it'll never get sharper, but it'll get a little flatter. I would never hear it until it's been polished many, many times. Also, if you get a little ding in the edge, And when we play bells and we're not so experienced or we make a mistake, we might bump one against the other, and you get a little ring, a little something in the right in that rim, and that will change the tune. Also, when that bell is tuned, the person who does it at the factory, they will bring it, and they'll go around as they bring it, and they will say, there's a sweet spot in that bell. And that's where the bell needs to be struck. And so they will make a little mark in the bell, and then when we take them apart and work with them, we have that bell to line up with. So then some other people might ask, and they say, well, what can go wrong with bells? What would happen? It would need some work to be done. And if you look inside the bell, you'll see that there is a clapper, and that clapper is made of a hard surface, and that wears. And with age, so you need to sometimes replace those. Also, if you look on the inside, you'll see that there's things that move. And any time that moves, that's moving on an axle. And those of us that are around the farm, we know what happens when something moves all the time. It can wear. And so that is a process, and it was something that I, out of necessity, needed to learn how to do. I can take those axles out and put new ones in. Also, in the Schomeric, there's this little, see that, there's something like that holds this. That can get, if you get tighten this knot a little too tight, you can suck that in a little bit, and then it won't be free. It won't be free to move. And so what I have forgotten to tell you at this point is that one of the characteristics of a handbell is the clapper will only go in one direction. It doesn't go sideways. And the bells in the church, some in the tower, sometimes they can just ring around. And that's a very important characteristic of handbells, because it allows us to do certain things which we'll talk about a little bit later, that if it didn't stay in that one plane, would make a change. So one of the other questions I frequently get is, well, when you ring a bell, does it really vibrate? How much does it really vibrate? Well, this is the C3, which is the lowest bell in a 3-octave set, and you've got a whole one lower, that real big one. But just look at this, just this one, this level. It pretty much vibrates, doesn't it? So I think that you don't see that, but it really is quite amazing that it does do that much vibration. Let me take a quick look here. Is there anything that I've missed?
I don't know.
Oh, you know.
You got the outline.
See, I figured that guys, isn't it true that that sometimes the wives are a little more quiet, but they always have the authority to say, you missed that, and I'm thankful for having Marilyn to do that for me. So, one thing, I made out this list, Marilyn and I made out this list of things that thought that you needed to know, and then over the last couple weeks, I've been thinking about a bunch of the stuff that I wanted to tell you, but since I'm 80 years old and don't really remember unless I write it down, you're not going to have all that forced on you, I guess, today. some folks ask about how heavy are the bells. And that lowest bell that you have, that's not here, weighs approximately 12 pounds. And then when you get to the real big bells, they don't weigh that much more. Because what did we say happens when you take metal off? The bell gets lower when you remove metal. So one of the ways to get that real low ringing bell is, even though it's a big casting to begin with, it's even a little thinner. So it is heavier, but not that much heavier. But they're very, very fragile. And in the Malmar company, when they make their really big bells, they usually make them in aluminum. It doesn't sound as good to my ear, but they say, for most of those low sounds, it's just fine, and it does save in the cost and also saves in the weight. Okay. So then I'm sure another thing that you've often seen that your people use is that instrument that looks like this, the hand chime. And so the hand chime is that's the sound of what's called a G4 in hand chime. Now, do you perceive any difference in the sound?
Do it again.
Can you describe to me what you hear different between them?
Do it one more time.
Yeah. Well, the chime is basically has in it only the fundamental. It won't have those. It doesn't create all the overtones. So when you play that, when you play the chime, you can hear it over the bells sometimes because it's just what it creates. Something that's interesting about the chime is this. They have a little thing here in the little block, and that's how the fine tuning is done. Is that you can move a little bit, and that either shortens or elongates the tube, and that's what does the very fine tuning. I don't deal with that, but have from some friends who do. So that's and also the chimes are significantly less expensive, and you here have the lower have chimes that go on down. The great big ones, which are a full octave lower than your handbell. And again, some of the people that create the handbells, I've had one of them tell me, says, I don't know why people even buy the real low handbells. He says, the low chimes are good enough for me. So I thought, boy, that, I don't think I would send him out as my salesman. So now we come to any questions that you have at this point on, yes?
Do you have to wear gloves with those
Okay.
as well as with the others
Okay.
because of safety?
Gloves, yeah. With chimes, there's no reason to wear gloves.
Well,
And
pass this around.
Yeah, and so the gloves are for one reason, and that is that when we happen to touch the bronze, we're not getting the oil from our fingers. And when you really get ringing, you can sweat through, and it doesn't do that much help. And you'll see some groups that do not wear gloves for the handbells either. So that is the protection, and we're just passing them around, and you'll notice that the glove has little knobs on it. And in the beginning, we didn't have that, and nobody could turn the pages on the music. So these kind of are able to do that. And then The gloves are reinforced right in here. Well, that really makes sense, and that was something that we hadn't seen for years. And then all of a sudden, I looked and I say, the gloves are reinforced out here. Well, why is that? Because if we hold the two bells in our hand, we hold them between this finger and here. And then one of the glove distributors told me, he said, well, you don't think they make gloves just for handbells, do you? These gloves are made for people who ride horses. And the reins come here and go between those fingers. So we said, well, okay, here we thought we were the driving force of the gloves. And so all of a sudden you say, well, pin in the balloon. Okay, any other questions at this point? Yes.
Are there certain experts that tune these bells? Or, is there a master that does?
Yeah, each of the bell manufacturers, they have people who do that, and then their work goes to a final person who says, yeah, they meet all the criteria. But with the bells, again, since you take, the only thing you can do once they're done is take metal off, and all that does is lower it. So you really can't do a whole lot to tune a bell once it comes out. I have taken bells back, and they have been able to improve. We said they were in Pennsylvania. So when we were in Washington, D.C., we were close. And so I have taken bells back, and they were able to improve, and sometimes, no, we just had to replace. So
Ours were done a year or so ago.
you had them refurbished.
All of them were sent back.
Yes, yeah. And when they do that,
It's costly.
yes, but when they do that, I haven't talked to them in years, but the last time I did, if the bell could not be repaired in the refurbishing cost, they would put new in, and I think we got like 3 new castings in that one. Any other questions at this point?
Who bought our bells here at the church, Judy?
I don't know, because I didn't play bells at that time.
Well, your church bought bells, and then this gentleman over here bought some bells, as I recall, right? Yeah. And so the bells that was bought here, that your church uses also, and Heartland Handbells can use those bells. And then I think Heartland did use more of yours. Any other questions? So now we kind of come to a part of ringing. And so when people talk about, well, we're going to go ring bells, to me, that's kind of a concept that I don't like. Because what I like is I'm going to say, I'm going to go and I'm going to let the bell ring. And so when you see bell ringers, you'll see them do a circle. Well, I can ring a bell. I don't know if I like that sound as well as I let the bell ring. And so physics, I happen to be an engineer, physics will say that when you make a circle, there is a force that happens. And so if I use a circle and raise, if I just don't do anything with my wrist, automatically it's going to tip over. And so I can ring. And where did we say that the sound comes from in a bell? We said it comes from right here, right? So if I ring like this, where does the sound go? I ring like this, where does the sound go? It's going out to you. So, having said that, then should not my goal be, when I am ringing, to keep that, what some people in writing will say is don't tip the milk out of the glass. So the bell has to be tipped back a little bit to make sure that this clapper is back. And then when you lift, you let it go forward. I come a long ways up when I ring, and a lot of people don't. But why I do is that you just heard me go here, and why did I do that? What did that do when I went back? That stopped the sound, right? We call it dampening. But if I just do this and come straight back, what sound? I'm only getting this, so what sound is coming? You're still getting some sound. So I like to ring and just come down to do the dam. And so it's something that you do what you can. And that's the other thing is that when you get doing things really, really fast, sometimes you have to just do what you can to get those bells in. Anything, Dad? Anything, Dad? So now one of the things that we mentioned about the clapper going in just in one direction. Marilyn, do you want to demonstrate four in hand? So since a clapper goes only in one direction, you'll see people sometimes pick up more than one bell in a hand. And they can ring with having two bells in that hand. They can ring one bell and then they ring the other. And when they do that, it's harder to get a circle. So, but you can do it. So
What I do is put the handles crossways.
yep.
I don't like four in hand particularly, so we'll hope it works. And one way you knock, I'm knocking. See, sometimes it doesn't happen. And then I'm like, whoops, I thought I would. In other words,
So when we first got into handbells, the real fancy choirs, they would actually interlock the handles, and they would probably do 4 bells in a row. They would do 4 notes in a row, and then they would do that. And some person by the name of Shelley, who I've never met, don't know if it's a man or a woman, started saying, well, if we put the handles together.
I'm going to open up my fingers, pick this bell up from the table, and right now you can see that
The handles are lined up,
like that.
and so the clappers will be in the same direction. So you get both notes. So now what you'll see is that many times people are then using octaves. So they will have like the D6, they'll have 2 Ds, 2 Es, 2 Fs, and then when they play together, they can play them in the Shelley form, and they get both notes at the same time. So I had one young man in my choir who all of a sudden I was looking at him and I was seeing he was kind of moving over like that, and well, what are you doing? What are you doing, Matthew? And he had gotten to be able to very quickly, if he was in Shelley, which was our preferred position, but sometimes you did have just one play and just the other, and he could, without setting him down, he just switch it, and all of a sudden he was in Shelley, and I was, so ringers learn, and that's how, in saying that, that's how some of the different techniques, you'll hear a lot of different sounds come from the bells. And almost all of them, you can say, well, somewhere along the line, someone tried something and said, oh, that works. So we'll demonstrate a few of the things that I'm sure you've heard. But and to be, that we talked about damping, and so the usual damp is to come back to your shoulder. Well, some of the other stop sounds would be a thumb damp.
And if I get too much sound, I'll do 2 fingers.
So that gives it a little different sound, and it stops it, stops it quickly. So another one then becomes a table sound, and that's called a martellato. And now what becomes an issue here, to me personally, is that what's important about that martellato sound is what's underneath this cover that you see. There's 4 inches of foam padding, but the foam padding is different, and that makes different sounds. So when I was in Virginia, I was fortunate to have a friend who was a foam seller. I would take my bells to there, and I would mart the different bells, and when I would buy foam, I would have like 3 different kinds of foam. The more firm at the top and the softer at the bottom. And as soon as you started buying a table with the foam on it, the director loses control. The directors don't like that sometimes, right? But yeah.
The music looks like piano music. And so if you're a bell ringer, you have to find your notes. So I'll pass the music around for some typical 5-octave. When you come up here to play, we have 2-octave music, and they're big notes, and they're marked blue and pink. So we'll be just fine. So don't worry when you see this and say, I could never do that. Yes, you could.
Yeah, and so there's other stop sounds. One of the very first ones was a pluck. And then they started doing a mark lift. So you get a bang and then the sound. And then all of a sudden someone started using mallets. And we got out when we were just starting to direct. One of the ladies was about 3 miles down, was one of the first ones to really use mallets. She was searching for what could she use, and she was finding marimba mallets were working. And they were deciding themselves when to mallet. And all of a sudden now, True Temper, that's who we always used to use. This True Temper. These new ones that now you've gotten are made by Schulmerich. And it's marked in the music. And the society comes up with this is how music will be marked. So the people that do the publishing of the music mark those kinds of sounds or those kind of techniques in the music, and it's a uniform.
And when you're malleting, you can either be suspended or you can be on the table. And the different size bells have different mallets. The bigger the bell, the bigger the mallet, the softer. You don't want to hurt it. And you can get a different sound depending on what size mallet that you're using. If I were to use this huge mallet, you don't hear a whole lot. This is really for a big bass bell. And if I would use that on this tiny bell, you don't even hear anything. So the bigger the bell, the bigger the mallet, and the softer the mallet. And also, we talked about you don't really ring the bell, you let the bell ring. Same thing with the mallet, you just sort of draw the music out from the mallet that you're doing.
And the mallets will come and say this is a range of the bells that the mallet should work for, but you got to listen to them. You got to put them on the table. What's under this will make a difference. Just the bell makes a difference. The specific mallets, they're going to be close. The big bells have softer mallets. Upper bells have harder mallets. But you need to mallet and then say, well, this mallet isn't going to work for it today. And I was at a festival where a group was going to play, and they were playing on, they had their own bells, but it was on tables that were set up. So they weren't in control of what was under the pad. And they had their mallets, the way they would mallet, and the director was out front, and they started playing. He said, and so he went through and he had each person mallet, and they changed what mallets they were ringing with on that day in order to get the sounds he wanted from the set of bells, pads, and mallets. So another one of the things from physics is one of the sounds that we used to use quite often and don't use much anymore. We call it tower swing. Use physics, you got that Doppler effect. And also people they were just all excited about this. But then that causes all kinds of problems. How do you miss the foam? Is there a wall right behind me? And those kinds of things. So, and then one of the things that we often frequently have in music, we talked about the stop sounds, is also times when you do not stop, when you strictly let vibrate. And so one of the things that we would use in the exercises with our groups would be a let vibrate on a chord. And so it would be. So we do 1, 2, 3. I'll just do it a little faster. 1, 2, 3. Oh, I stopped 1 too soon. 1, 2, 3, and then together. Okay. Just do 1, 1, 2, 3, and together. Okay. 1, 2, 3. All right. Took longer to do but now did you notice anything about, was there anything you noticed about that? That you saw rather than heard? Did you see that when we were doing more than 1, 1, 2, 3, that the circles were the same? And then when you got to the last 1, 2, 3, this was still a big circle, that was a smaller circle, and a much smaller circle. So the idea being that the bell, ideally, in my world, moves the same speed, even regardless of how fast it is. So there was only a 1 count out here, 2 counts here, and 3 counts over here. So that last circle had to match a big one to the small one. So that's something that was kind of fun. And then you all here used a technique called the singing bell, where they had held the bells and used a wood stick. And when that came in, that was the thing. And I think I'd only seen it like one time before we got, once or twice at most before we got out here, and Pat already had it included in your repertoire. So that was something really neat. Well, I talked about the bell maintenance, but the one thing that I didn't say is polishing is a lot of work. And I wanted to say that. So you tell your people when you see the bells maintained in this way, someone has spent a lot of work time with that.
Do you traditionally take care of polishing your own bells that you people play? Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, okay. Question was, traditionally, do you polish your own bell? I don't know what, everybody just gets them done, however. I don't think there is any, we would have a bell polishing party, and whatever bells you got. Now Marilyn mentioned how that the music you can look like piano music. And that's one of the things that we noticed over the years is that when we first started, the music looked like piano music. And you think about piano music, what do you have the capability of playing? The most you have the capability of putting down is one set of hands, 5 fingers each. Well, all of a sudden, when we got 61 bells in 5 octaves, and many of them can be played at the same time. So that music that got passed around to you, you saw there was an awful lot of black notes in that music, which meant we could do something a lot fuller. And so the bells themselves are laid out just as a piano keyboard would be. And that the way we would lay them out. There's some others that have their own little techniques. So we would start when we got the 2 octaves up here. So we started with the G. So then we have the G, the A, the B, and then any accidentals, what would be the black notes. And teamwork becomes very important here, because if I say you have a G and the A in this hand, well, if something comes up an A sharp, that also happens to be a B flat. So that means that if the B ringer is playing and all of a sudden they need a B flat, if I had last played it as an A sharp, I better put it back down where it belonged so that the B ringer can go for the B flat and it's there. So there's, that's the first stage of teamwork. Then the next stage becomes if I have A sharp, I'm sorry, I have G, and then I have A, and I have A sharp. Well, there's ways I can do that, and that's called a weave. But maybe I don't have time to do that. So maybe my next door buddy can pick that one up and play. So there is a lot of things in teamwork that comes into play when choirs get quite good.
We spent a long time doing Phantom of the Opera, or not, something wrong, is it? Phantom?
Yeah.
Okay, Phantom, where they have the all the way up and down. Well, it would be like C, C sharp, D, E flat, and the person couldn't do everything. So we were changing so that people were reaching over and playing a neighbor's bell, playing their bells, and playing another one, and to make it really smooth. And it took a long time, and these were teenagers, and once they mastered it, they were so proud of themselves that they could do that. And it was really good for them to work as a team, too.
Now, how do you know which bell we're picking up? If you look on the handles, the notes put on it. So there's E, and it says F sharp and G. So that we know that is the case. Now, if you look at these 2 bells, I think they're the same size. My point was going to be that they can make more than one note out of one specific casting, just by taking off more metal. One of the places that makes a big change, there's a real big change. This is the G bell, and this is the A bell. And you can see from the inside that there's total difference in the clapper, right? And there's a total difference in the weight of the bell. And so I've always said that GA ringer, they react so differently. And for them to make the sound exactly the same is a talent. And one of the ways I did it is I always looked for a left-handed person to be there, because the left hand, being dominant, playing the much bigger bell, it just all of a sudden seemed to work. So, I did learn something in 20 years. But, now, would you all like to stand up just a minute? Yeah. Okay. So we've talked about ringing, and we've talked about the circles. And so how I like to start is just saying, okay, should come up and look like you're gonna shake hands. And let's just do that with just your dominant hand, whatever your dominant hand. Okay, so now you're in a pretty relaxed mode, right? But what if I just kind of tip my hand back just a little and make kind of a V shape here? And doesn't it look like a handbell could just maybe fall right in there? Yeah, all right. And so now just go in a circle, down, out, and up. And only go down about just under your chest. So lower you go, and come up around your ear. And keep that like that. All right, that's good. Now, if you go a little faster and relax your wrist, do you find that your wrist just kind of flows forward at some point?
Yeah.
If you do that? Yeah, it just kind of goes through. Now, we don't need to go out like this. We want to keep this just really straight. Just really straight. Look the other way. Yep, come down. And one of the things that I can help people sometimes to do is go up where they can go to a wall and just have their arm there and right next to the wall, and it's going to stay straight. So that's one of the goals. One of the goals to try to do is stay straight. So do we have how many? We need 7, don't we? Do we have 7 volunteers to come up and take some bells in hand?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Come on.
5.
And we have laid these bells out in the key of G. So there is only
Yes. Uh-huh.
there is only the number of the bells you'd have. So would you take G A?
It would be,
We need one more. Oh,
it'd be right here.
Yeah. We got a D E in here.
Mhm.
D E, F sharp G, F sharp G. A,
We don't have a DE ringer yet.
Huh?
Can we?
We don't have what do we have?
We need a DE ringer.
Oh, we need a DE ringer. Okay. Someone else want to come up? Be DE?
I'll take this one.
Sure, come on. All right.
Maybe we should move both hands.
Yeah. We need to move you down as far as you can go. Yeah. Okay. And what is this? That's the G. So we'll put that
Do you have
over
enough-
here.
do you have enough
Okay.
space?
How does that? Are you more better in front of the music now?
You would have this.
Yeah, all right. So we're getting way ahead of ourselves in front of the music. So now let's just take just your dominant hand, and take the bell in that. And before you do, start it in this way with your hand. Put it in your dominant. Light, thumb lightly around. Fingers very gently. The fingers don't have to, you don't want to have your hand tipped like this at all. Land totally straight. So start off with it like that and just let the fingers go gently in front. Okay, I would like for you, Sally, to have your hand straighter like this. There you go. And then you got to move that like that. And keep it like that. And relax. I said relax. How many times do we do that? All right. Bell held back towards a little tip back a little towards you, back towards your shoulder, and then just now we're just going to make circles and we're not going to try to make it break. So just down and out, and keep the bell up. Keep it tipped up. Keep the bell tipped up. We want to keep the bell tipped up. It shouldn't ring until we get way back up. See, it doesn't ring at the bottom. Let it come up and then just let that force up. Okay.
Go down next.
Good. Really good start. Now,
So you're not,
yeah.
when you're going down,
I didn't tell them this when they came up, but for some reason or another, I would say at least 8 out of 10 people, they hear and they understand the circle, but when you get up and you get a bell in your hand, Your body does not let you do it that way. Your body says, no, I must have to do this. And so it's just something that just happens. So that was good. But now the idea being is now I want to use the word lift. So we go around, and when we start coming up, we want to lift. And that's what's going to let the bell ring. Yeah. Just stay as straight as you can. I like that. Yeah, okay. Don't let it go so far. It doesn't have to go so far over. Yeah, it doesn't have to. Okay. Get back closer towards you to start with, and then don't let it go as far ahead as you did. It doesn't have to go as nearly as far now. See?
Am I going down? And keep the one this way.
Let's be straight like that. Okay. Get back and relax that wrist, and then just let it, when you're lift, let it lift before you let it go. There you go. Okay. So pull the sound out of the bell. Pull the sound out of the bell. Good. All right. Now let's try putting the bell in both hands, and just kind of move apart a little bit. So that we don't have these bells crash. You know, we don't want to do that now, because I want you to do both hands at the same time. Okay. So reason for that is when we ring, we want to stand. We want to be straight. We don't want to move our shoulders. You know, we're just straight. So if you're doing both bells at the same time, you can't swing one way or the other to lead. So we have both bells up, please. Behind your shoulder. On your shoulder, we start there, and then just come out and down and up with me. Ready, and ring on the way up. I like it. Yeah. All right. Yeah, start with it back here. Start with it so it's back here, then down, and then just when you lift, see, you're letting it go over all the way down here. And so you have to keep it here and then until you lift. See, don't let it go down yet. Keep it back, and now start lifting. Okay, again. Yeah, and just let it happen. Just let it go. Yeah, and this bell needs to be straight there. Okay, so the bell, look at your handle, and if it's not straight, it's not going to ring well. Right? Okay, and Sally, I need you to get your hand straight again, like you're going to. Yes. All right. It doesn't feel natural. Okay, one more time with that. Okay, Sally, this hand needs to be, the handle needs to be there. There you go. All right. One more time with the circles. Start on your shoulder. Are you ready to go? And ring. Yes. Success. All right. Did you notice how they were even almost at the same time? Success. All right. Now, we got some music for them.
Oh,
Okay.
And you notice that everything, when we talk about so many octaves of bells, this starts with a G down here, and so the G is in your left hand, right? And a G in the bass clef is in the line. And the A is on a line. So if you go right up the line, everybody has the bell in their left hand that is in the line.
It's a space.
In the space. It's in the space. Thank you. And right hand on the line. Some people have a special way of assigning, but most of the people we've dealt with, that's the way they assign. And it's great because if I change positions and I need to find, do I need to be able to read all this music? No. I just need to know that my note is in this space and on this line. And the space is always going to be my left hand, and the line is always going to be on my right hand. So those bell ringers, they make you think they're really, you know, they don't have to be. So anyway, so now let's just take a look at the music, and put our bells up on our shoulder, all of them. And if you've got the first note circled, let's make a circle make that ring. Those of you that have the first note. Ready? And ring. Okay? I think, are you looking at this one? Yeah. So that's B. Okay, so we got GBD, right? So we got GBD. Yeah. Okay, so let's do that one more time. Yeah. So we should have. Yep, so GBD. Here we go. Ready? And ring. Yeah. Yeah. And Marilyn's got the top. Yeah, and I had to need one more D down there, right? Yeah. Okay, here we go. Ready? And ring. Success. All right. Now what's the next chord?
What are we doing? Are you on the second mention?
Yeah. Well, we're just doing the measure. Yeah.
In
So
other
the next
words,
chord.
measure 2.
Yes, I do.
Not on my sheet.
Well, no.
Yeah, but she's reading this
Mine are
sheet.
highlighted on mine, yours are highlighted on yours.
Yeah. She's got her
I don't have
sheet. Each
yours.
one of you have your own
You
sheet.
have your own. This is yours, this is mine.
Each one has your own sheet.
I have G and A.
Yeah. You have G and A.
No,
No,
This is-
This is G. You got the ones that are marked.
they're in the base clip.
You got the ones that are, we didn't tell them we highlighted them, see, so she was reading music rather than the highlighter. All right, yeah, so you just bring the ones that,
in the base class.
yeah, you're in the bass plane. All right, here we go, ready? So you just bring the ones that's got the circle, and the second measure now. Ready, and ring. Oh, yes. Okay, now let's do the first one and then the second one. Ready? First one. Ring. Okay, and keep the circle going. And we need some more up there on the top. The first one.
Not on the first
Oh, you don't have that?
No.
Okay. All right. Good. Here we go. Here we go. 1. Okay, and now the second one. Yeah. Good. Now, I'm going to count 4. I'll keep counting 4, and each measure has 4 counts, right? Okay. So let's see, just read the music by measure. Okay, and I'll count 1, 2, 3, 4, 2. So 2, 3, 4. Ready? Ready? Here we go. I'll give you a count of 4 for nothing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ring. 2, 3, 4, and 2, 2, 3, 4, and 3, 2, 3, 4, and 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 6, 2, 3, 4, 7, 2, 3, 4, and 8, 2, 3, 4, 9, 2, 3, 4, and 10, 2, 3, 4, 11, 2, 3, 4, and 12, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now, does everybody here know the song Holy, Holy, Holy? Yeah. Okay. Holy, holy, holy. Okay, and yeah. So let's all let them accompany us singing Holy, Holy, Holy. Okay, here we go. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. Holy, 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 all the saints adore thee. Bum, 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 E should be this hand, and F should be this hand. Yeah.
Whoa, is that way harder than I ever dreamed?
What time is it, Gary? So we're about in an hour, so. Okay. We got a whole bunch of people, we got a whole bunch of bells. Huh? We got bells uncovered here. Well, fine. We have two more sets. Okay. Now, let's do those. So we've got some experienced people and some the first time. So now again, hold your hand out like this. Do it how many bells in them. And then just take my dominant hand's right, so take a bell and you take your right hand bell in your left hand. Take your right hand bell in your left hand and just set it in there. Okay? Yep, just go ahead and set this bell in this hand, okay? And hold your hand like you're going to shake my hand. And just keep the hand going and relax. There we go. Okay. All right. Okay, here we go. Bells on your shoulder. Bells on your shoulder. And yeah. Well, we just make that circle. Okay, with me, make a circle. And circle. Okay. Open up. It doesn't go through like that. No, just open. No. Just open your hand up. Like this. Until you hold it clean. Right at the top. And don't hold on tight. You don't need to hold so tight. It's not going to go anywhere. Just relax. You don't need to hold nearly so tight. Okay?
I play the sevens and eights.
Okay? And circle. Ready? And circle. Easy. Just a circle. You don't have to jerk back. If you jerk up, if you go up, just lift it up. Out and lift it up. Keep the bell back. Keep the bell going back. Like this. Let it pull back like that until you start up. And then you let it. Okay? And then hold on like this. Keep it in your hand. Now. Okay? And then let it go. You don't have to jerk it. Just lift it. Just lift it. That's much better.
Make it easier to
Okay.
make a circle or a triangle.
Okay?
Just make it back into a circle. There you go. Circle.
Relax.
Comes forward.
Open up your hand. Open up your wrist. That's the position you want to be in. Don't just make it be like that, but let me relax so I can move the bell in your hand. Just like that. Okay? There you go. Yeah. Okay. Good. There we go. Okay. Raise up. We're not hammering something. We're not hammering it. We're lifting up. Okay? Lift up. Keep the bell straight until you start coming up. Can you do that? Okay. There you go. That's better. Yeah. Keep it back all the way through here. And then you'll let it go up. Yeah. You even keep it. There you go. That was much better.
Bill, you should be up here.
Yeah. Okay, want to try those? Get those bells and try the music, and you'll see that the space is your left hand. Space is your left hand, and the line is your right hand. Okay, so I'll count 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we'll try the first chord. 1, 2, 3, 4. And chord. 2, 3, 4. Next chord. 2, 3, 4. Next chord. 3, 4. And chord. 2, 3, 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4. And 1. Okay, good. All right. All right. Are you satisfied that you've run with success?
Yes.
Yes. I am satisfied
If you can make a sound out of it.
you've run with success.
I'm sure that's.
So thank you very much. And so is there?
Let me hear your list.
Recruited some new bell ringers for you, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Recruited some new bell ringers.
Bring the bell up. Bring the bell up. Hold it. Relax your wrist. And get it all the way back. Your wrist has to come back even more. So you're here. Okay, now make the circle. Relax. Just totally let me move your hands. And then when you lift, see, you just stay smooth. Well, you don't have to jerk. Just stay smooth. There. Just stay smooth. There you go. Good. Good.
Yours the same size as this one?
Yeah, they're pretty much the same. Okay. Well, is there any other questions?
Yeah. I want to try this new one. Ooh.
Yeah.
You have to have a little more muscle.
Yep.
Sure, yeah.
I know I would have to do 2 hands.
What I didn't say while you're sitting back down is we really like the chimes for teaching because the chime is much less forgiving on having a nice arm stroke. If you're just a little bit off, nothing happens. And the bell can sometimes be somewhat forgiving, but it sounds best. But with the chime, it has to be. And so we like to start with the chimes because the ringers got their own feedback immediately that, oh, I wasn't quite right. So, any other questions? Well, thank you so much for having me. We appreciated that, the opportunity.